Joyce is a real stickler for honesty. For Joyce, honesty and openness is a very important emotional need. I deposit love units into my account in her love bank with her knowing that I'm honest. And that deposits a lot of love units, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
It's something that women really can't compromise on. If I ask you, tell me what your 5 most important emotional needs are, honesty and openness is assuredly going to be on that list. A woman needs affection. She knows she needs affection. She knows she needs conversation. She knows she needs family commitment. Financial support is another need for women. Honesty and openness cannot be compromised. If you are married to a husband who lies to you once a year, that is once a year way too many. As a matter of fact, you'll remember that lie years later. So I've encouraged men to follow what I call the policy of radical honesty. Reveal to your spouse everything you know about yourself. Policy of radical honesty. Reveal to your spouse everything you know about yourself. And so by me revealing to Joyce everything about me, good and bad, problems that I have, my sin, the thoughts that are good, the thoughts that are evil, I become a better person. I become accountable to Joyce, and I reveal to Joyce exactly what I am. Well, we introduce the policy of radical honesty to them. And we say, we would like you to reveal to your spouse everything you know about yourself, and we'd like you to get into the habit of doing that. There are 4 parts to radical honesty. The first part is emotional honesty. And that part is reveal to your spouse your reactions to things. What are you thinking? How are you feeling? Especially positive and negative reactions. If you're reacting good to what your spouse is doing, tell them. If you're reacting negatively, tell them that too. We talked earlier about the fact that you should express it not as a judgment, but as a reaction. When you did this, it bothered me. So emotional honesty is that you're telling your spouse exactly what you're thinking, exactly what you're feeling when your spouse is doing something. I strongly encourage that. What it does is it increases complaining in marriage. A lot more negative reactions are revealed. But at the same time, you're able to get on top of these problems, and you'll be able to solve them with a certain amount of grace, because they don't hit you like a ton of bricks when they finally all piled up so high and they finally fall over. Emotional honesty means that whatever you're feeling, you express with respect. With respect. Now, what I mean by that is that you might have to filter out disrespectful comments. I think disrespectful thoughts. It's part of my nature. It's easy for me to do. I think disrespectful thoughts are funny. I get a great deal of humor out of being disrespectful. And the problem with disrespect is that I can be as disrespectful as I want with somebody else, but not with Joyce. In my relationship with Joyce, I cannot be disrespectful about her to others, and in my expression of a problem that I might have with Joyce, I cannot express it in a disrespectful way. Now, you might say that by just expressing a negative reaction, that itself is disrespectful. No, it's not. No, it's not. I draw a distinction between a judgment saying you were wrong to do that, and it bothered me when you did that. One is an honest expression of your feeling. The other is a debatable subject. Am I wrong? I don't know. I could argue many ways on that issue. We could be here for hours and hours talking about whether I was right or wrong. But if you tell me that what I said bothered you, there is no further discussion. It is a fact. You're telling me the truth. The second kind of honesty we're going to talk about is historical honesty. Have you ever left something out of your personal history? Now, I give people a questionnaire to fill out. It's called the Personal History Questionnaire. And I encourage people, husbands and wives, to fill it out. Fill out the Personal History Questionnaire. And you'll find that it'll raise a lot of topics for discussion. So I say historical honesty is a big deal. The more you know about each other, the more you're going to understand each other. What's particularly important is things that you've done in the past that were serious mistakes. You should know that about each other, primarily because what you've done in the past is something you're likely to do in the future. And the question is, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to prevent that? And my argument again, honesty is one of your best protections.
And I think, too, it's going to come out eventually if you don't say it up front. And it'll come out, I believe, in the worst possible way, where the spouse may feel like they were tricked or you lied to me. Or...
That's the worst outcome.
Yes,
That's the worst outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I've had a lot of people tell me that, why should I tell my spouse that I had an affair? Won't that ruin our marriage? She will never find out otherwise. How could she know? I was on an army base someplace over here. She'll never know who the woman was. She'll never know what happened. And my attitude is, you want to go through the rest of your life keeping something from your wife which is one of the most important events in your life. Mm-hmm. It's something you'll never forget. It's an important part of your personal history, and it represents a personal flaw. Mm-hmm. Your wife needs to know about it. As soon as she finds out, she'll never respect me. She'll never think of me as a good person. I say, well, look, you're being honest. Are you a good person? No. She should know that. Just because you're not a good person doesn't mean she's not going to be in love with you. But the basic idea is we all need to know that we're not good people. And I know that what I've done is unpleasing to the Lord. Joyce must know about it. One of the best ways to overcome an addiction to pornography is to reveal it every time it happens. Every time you view pornography, the first person you go to see is your spouse. And you make a commitment to God that that's going to be the case. Now, what is even more helpful would be to go to your pastor as well. In other words, the more you expose the problem, the easier it is to overcome. Yeah. And honesty and openness is a key factor in overcoming all sorts of addictions that we have in life. Now, the next is current honesty. Current honesty means that your spouse needs to know what you're doing. Needs to know your schedule. Needs to know your passwords. Needs to know what social networks you're on. Needs to be able to get into all of your texting messages. Needs to know everything about you. I am a huge advocate of snooping. In other words, Joyce has a right to check up on me without me knowing about it. And you say, oh, then that's not honesty. She's not being honest with you. I'd say that's a legitimate exception. That's a legitimate exception. In other words, if Joyce thinks I am doing something wrong, I give her the right to check up on me.
Yes.
Without me knowing about it. And if she finds that, in fact, I have been keeping something from her, then I have a responsibility as her husband to beg forgiveness and say, I will never do this again, and go to a great deal of trouble and make sure it never happens. But if she shows that I have been pure as a driven snow, it will restore her trust in me. There's no downside to snooping. It's something that I think we should all be able to do when we're married. I don't believe in privacy in marriage. Why would I not believe in privacy? Because the two of us are one.
Right.
We're one. How can there be privacy in one? See? And then there's future honesty. Future honesty means that if I've got a plan, I talk to Joyce about it before I put that plan into motion. Before I really give that plan much more thought. She knows about my plan. She knows about what I'm hoping for the future. She knows about my expectations, my hopes, my dreams. But we never do have individual dreams without them becoming joint dreams. There are no dreams that I've got that Joyce and I aren't going to enjoy together. There are a lot of things that I could enjoy without Joyce, but those have been eliminated as possibilities. The only things that I can enjoy in life are things that we would enjoy as a couple. And so as we talk about our future together, as we talk about our plans, we are having joint plans, joint agreement on what we plan to do for the future. In conclusion of this particular need, I want to say that it is so essential to a great marriage that you could put it as one of those things that you cannot avoid. It is an important emotional need. But if you're dishonest, it's also a terrible love buster. It's one of my 6 love busters. Dishonesty does a terrible number on love bank deposits. It makes withdrawals like you wouldn't believe. Every time you think about the dishonesty of your spouse, the love units will be withdrawn.
But talk about the responses when the spouse is honest.
Yeah, it's very important to recognize that you can discourage radical honesty 2 ways. One is your values may not actually be consistent with radical honesty. Do you believe that there's a place for privacy in marriage? If you do, radical honesty isn't going to work very well for you because you believe that I ought to have a secret second life. There ought to be things that I keep secret from my spouse. And you know, think privacy. Privacy is something we should have. We should be able to be private. I don't think so. I think when you're married, you have given up privacy.
That's true.
With your spouse at any rate. Mm-hmm. And then there's the reaction. What's your reaction? Does your reaction encourage honesty or does your reaction discourage honesty? If your spouse tells you the truth, are you going to start making demands? Are you going to start being disrespectful? Are you going to start being angry? I am opposed to demands, disrespect, and anger at any time. Never make demands, never be disrespectful, never lose your temper with your spouse. Now, if you were to do that, you're going to make radical honesty a whole lot easier for your spouse. You're going to encourage radical honesty. I had a grandmother that was unreal. I was her first grandchild, and my grandmother thought I could do nothing wrong. On one very embarrassing experience, she told all of her grandchildren that I was her favorite. And it put me in a very precarious position for a number of years because all of my cousins, we all lived together. We all lived near each other. And at one time, we all lived actually in the same house. So the basic idea was that my grandmother, who thought I was wonderful, created in me great self-confidence. I grew up believing her. And as a result, I really think that I have tried to achieve more in life than I would have tried to achieve if there hadn't been any grandmother there for me. I really think that admiration is very, very important for all of us. All of us need to be admired to some extent. I'm a big believer in humility. Jesus says that we should be meek. I believe that. I believe that we run the risk of thinking that we're too important and too great and too impressive. At the same time, I know that my grandmother's admiration for me gave me inspiration, and it gave me confidence to do many of the things that I've done. I need that same admiration from my wife. Now, where my grandmother thought I could do no wrong, Joyce is all too aware of the fact that I can do wrong. But she still needs to be an admiring wife if I am going to have the confidence to do the things that she needs me to do. So there's a sense in which her admiration feeds my ambition and my energy. Without her admiration, I don't think I would do as good a job caring for her. And I think this is true for most men. Most men will have on their list of important emotional needs admiration. And so it usually doesn't appear on a woman's top list of needs, but it does appear on a man's top list of needs. Now, the question is, how can you be an admiring wife when you don't feel that there is much to admire? Which is often the case when couples come into me for counseling. I often will tell a husband that admiration is the last thing we're going to work on. Because if you're meeting her emotional needs, there's going to be a lot more to admire. And it'll be a lot easier for her to give you accolades when you're making her happy. Now I want to spend a little bit of time going back over the material we've covered already. And I want to tell you what the irresistible husband looks like. The irresistible husband is a man who is very affectionate. He lets his wife know that he cares about her. And he does this in many different ways. He provides an umbrella of care, an umbrella of protection. She knows she can trust him to think about her before he does things. He's proven the fact that he cares about her. He's a great conversationalist. She enjoys talking to him whenever they get together. He's always able to talk about things that interest her. He makes her feel the center of his attention when they do talk together. He never does anything to offend her. He never does anything to hurt her feelings. He doesn't get angry with her. He doesn't make demands or show disrespect. He's a good provider. He earns a good living. He supports his family. He is honest and open. She never has to worry about making him tell her the truth. He reveals the truth with no prompts from her. He always lets her know exactly what he's thinking, exactly what he's feeling. And he's a great family man. He cares for the children. He loves the children. And he works with her in raising the children in a way that they both agree. He is training the children to be successful and happy in life. A man like that is irresistible to a woman. A man that does these things she can't get enough of and is deeply in love with. Now, the irresistible woman is doing very different things. First of all, she's a great sex partner. She encourages lovemaking with him. She also is a great companion. She enjoys the things that he enjoys recreationally. She is eager to be with him when they're doing things recreationally. He knows that whenever they're out together, they're always going to have a good time. She is beautiful in his eyes. He looks at her, and whenever he looks at her, he just feels wonderful. She is as attractive as he could ever imagine, and he thoroughly enjoys her appearance. She is somebody who is helpful with his domestic needs. She's good at helping him with the household and with child rearing. And finally, she is an admiring woman. She thinks highly of him, lets him know how much she appreciates him, and how glad she is to have him a part of her life. A woman like that is irresistible to a man. He wants her to be a part of his life. And he's very much in love with that woman. I want all of you to be irresistible to each other. I want you to find each other to be something that you can't do without. You can't live without each other. Not only because you are meeting each other's emotional needs, but because you have become one. You have become one flesh. God has joined you together, and he does not want you to separate, and he does not want you to do anything to hurt each other. He wants you to fulfill each other. God wants you to have a life of marriage that he had in mind when he created you, one full of love and full of passion.